Hi, I'm Jayne, professional coach for Envy Gaming, and today I'm going to be talking to you about one of the pillars of pro, and that's how to practice like a professional. Before we get into how you should be practicing if you want to become a professional player, we have to take a look at how the actual professionals practice right now when they're competing in professional leagues. Let's start by taking you through a regular day of an esports athlete. Let's use Dallas Fuel as example, which is Envy Gaming's Overwatch team that competes in the Overwatch League. Professional players are still gamers, which means that the majority of them are nocturnal, and even on a professional workday, that means most people don't start before noon. To start off the day, the team would meet and have lunch together to discuss the things that they were going to be working on throughout the day. But it wasn't just any lunch. When you're actually trying to become a professional player, it's not just your skills inside the game that count. You have to care about your physical performance as well as your mental performance as well, which means keeping track of your diet, how well you're eating, making sure it's very nutritious, and making sure that you've actually gotten enough sleep the night before. Now, before any professional team or individual starts practicing for the day, they usually do two things. First is reviewing their performance from the previous day, or whatever else they were working on, and the second thing they want to do is plan out what they want to accomplish for the rest of the day. This is a very important thing so that you can continue building off the successes that you've had and correcting any mistakes, faults, or just inefficiencies in your play. The most important part of the afternoon review is to pick something very specific that you want to work on because you want to practice with intent. Your goal for practice shouldn't be trying to just win as many games as possible. The majority of your practice is going to be playing in a way that gets you more information. Playing to win during practice time is usually not your best strategy. Sometimes it can be effective if you're trying to prepare for a stage performance or you've got a big match coming up and you want to get into the mental state required to win. But most times what you want to accomplish during a practice session is play that is going to give you more information or play that is going to allow you to work on the areas which you struggle the most. One of the most challenging things about trying to practice with intent, and that intent being to improve, is that sometimes you don't even know what it is you need to do in order to improve. Obviously, everybody can improve on basic things like mechanical skill. A 99% accuracy can still at least be attempted to be turned into 100% accuracy. However, there's a lot of other factors, especially in team games, strategic games, especially games with opponents, where there are less quantitative factors that still need to be improved. And sometimes when individuals are struggling to push their play to the next step, it's not the fact that they're lacking talent or they're not putting in enough hours, it's that they don't know what they need to improve on. And this is where practicing for information comes in, is that you have to be okay with losing games during practice as long as you're experimenting, trying to figure out things that'll work, new ways of accomplishing the same task, because no plan is going to survive first contact with the enemy. You may be practicing a very meticulous strategy, but as long as there's another person involved, be it a teammate or an opponent, you're going to have to adapt. So familiarizing yourself to as many different situations as possible so that they are familiar to you if they come up in an official match is an extremely important thing to pursue when practicing for professional play. Now, the things that I'm telling you right now are probably going to be very different from the advice you've probably heard 1,000 times. There's a lot of people, both you see it on streamers, you see it said by professional players, that you need to be practicing about 10 to 12 hours per day if you want to be competitive in esports. And simply put, that's not true. Most people take that advice literally and think that that means they need to spend 10 to 12 hours a day in the game, in client, competing against other people. Now, for a lot of people, this has actually worked, and they've gotten to the professional level by doing this. However, these individuals, at least from a coach's perspective, are extremely difficult to work with, because these are what I would refer to as instinctual players. They know what they need to do in order to win. They have extremely high mechanical skill from just sheer volume of practice. However, they can't really explain to another person why it is they do what they do, or how they know what they're doing is going to work. These individuals are going to be usually quite competent in terms of mechanics and individual play, but really struggle to work with a team because they don't understand the fundamental underlying factors that they're using in order to be successful in their gameplay. This is another very important reason why it's important to practice with intent and approach your method of improvement with an open and critical mind. When you look at the highest level of athletes and performers, most of them can only perform at a high level between 4 to 6 hours a day. 6 if you've got a crazy amount of stamina, but past about 4 hours, no matter who you are, your performance is going to decline. There's just a limitation to your physiology. So if you are lucky enough to be in a position in your life where you do have the ability to commit more than 4 to 6 hours per day into actually improving yourself and attempting to go professional, you should be spending a lot more of that time doing things like research and review. Research being looking at other people's gameplay and footage from professional competitions such as tournaments. And then review is going to be looking at your own gameplay and critically looking at it, preferably from different perspectives. Since you'll have different information when playing first person compared to watching a third person replay, you'll be able to notice different things that may have been invisible to you if you never looked at yourself from another perspective. If through doing this you still don't know what you need to improve on, you don't need to go to a professional coach. Even talking to a friend, somebody who's at the same level of you, may have a different perspective. There are 1,000 different playstyles when it comes to esports that can be successful. Mastering one can certainly be a method you use in order to reach the professional level, but being a generalist and being able to adapt regardless of the situation is certainly another viable option as well. So don't be afraid about getting a second opinion. There's always going to be more than one right answer on how to win games. And even when you're playing on the ranked ladder or you're competing through an online matchmaking system of any variety, and I know I said this earlier in the video, but I'm going to stress it again because it's extremely important. Even when you're playing in a ranked mode or playing any sort of online matchmaker in the game that you want to become professional in, you need to remember that you're playing to improve. Obviously you want to win, but you're always going to learn the most, or at least get the most potential information through losses. If another person outplays you or defeats you through raw skill, they're giving you information and insights into how you yourself could have been better to win in the future. It's important to not let these losses frustrate you or affect you, because you need to stay focused and at a very high level of mental performance for multiple hours on end. So if you let a single loss affect your mentality, it's not going to help you in any way become a professional quickly or efficiently. I hope you enjoyed this latest video in the Pillars to Pro series. And if I'm going to summarize everything I just said into a single nugget of wisdom, just remember that when you're competing online, that your rank is temporary, but your skill is forever.